So if I did not have the surgery right away, the cancer could have spread to my brain and eventually caused me to die. But thankfully, it was 3 months later, they were to have the surgery to remove my right eye. Your passion is going to be that candlelight, that fire that keeps you awake at night, but also keeps things going when it's really dark.
Zaakirah, welcome to the Point of Impact. I'm so glad to have you here.
Thank you for having me, Aaron.
Well, where in the world are you now? Because I've seen a few different. You're a world traveler, photographer, you get speaker, and so much more. But there's some videos where you've moved to Kenya, and I don't know. Let's start with where you are now, where you came up, all that kind of stuff.
Yes, well, I was in Kenya for about a year. I spent like October 2024 through October 2025 in Kenya. And at the moment of this conversation, I am back in the US. At the time of the recording of this conversation, I'm in the west coast of the US, but I normally live in where my family, my sibling, my childhood friends are in the Atlanta, Georgia area. But I am a Florida girl at heart. I was born in Fort Lauderdale, Miami, Florida. And I'm the only one from Florida. I said earlier that I have siblings, a brother and a sister from Atlanta, Georgia. And then I also had a sister who passed away who's from New York City, but she grew up in Atlanta, Georgia. My dad is from a small town not far from Chattanooga, Tennessee. And my mom's the one from New York. So I am an East Coast girl, but I love to travel. My dad was a Vietnam veteran, so the love of travel came from him, as well as my mom, because I follow astrology and she's a December baby, so she loved to travel as well.
Well, that is well traveled. You said you started in Florida?
Started traveling once I was living in Florida, and after I was born. Well, actually, I feel like I almost should go in chronological order. So I was born in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and when I was born, I'm a millennial in my 30s, and when I was born, shortly after I was born is actually when I got my childhood eye cancer diagnosis. So my mom, we had the surgery to remove my right eye so I can see in my left eye only. My right eye is a prosthetic eye. And then shortly after that, we moved to Tennessee, near the Chattanooga, Tennessee area.
Mm-hmm.
For other opportunities, but also to be introduced to my dad's side of the family. And medically, the doctor were not up to speed on my specific type of eye cancer. So back to Fort Lauderdale, Florida, we went. And then my mom and dad wanted me to have a different educational opportunity, a chance to go to a private religious school. So I had the chance to move to Tampa, Florida. And although I did not like that private school, I wanted to finally stay at a school because so far, as you can tell, I moved around a lot. So I remember saying to my mom and dad, I want to stay in Tampa, Florida for middle school. And we tried to stay for high school, but I think because, high school is that time of year where you need to be figuring out what you want to do with your life. And the medical industry also was still not quite up to par because I was going to school, middle school, part of high school in Tampa, Florida, but every 3 to 6 months we were still going back to Fort Lauderdale, Florida. So that's what I mean by I'm a Florida girl. I'm an East Coast girl. I graduated from high school in Fort Lauderdale, Florida.
You're migratory birds.
Absolutely.
That's right. I grew up in Ohio, so I tell people I have this Nordic, like Viking blood, and I've been living in Florida, the Panhandle, which is more seasonal, but still, I'm such a sissy about the humidity. I don't know how I've lasted the last 13 years, but you mentioned it, but you zipped right past it. Having one of your eyes removed. I know you talked about the photograph you still have that showed something different that your mom would led your mom to notice something wrong. Can you tell me about that?
Yeah, absolutely. And so for the photograph that you're talking about, I can describe it now, but I think for those who want to check it out, definitely go to let me see. Go when you want to Google it. You like if you're really curious about what is this photograph, you can go to search. I was able to do a TEDx talk, TEDx talk, and when you search for my name or search for the name of it called "Seeing Life from a Different Lens," they put it on the projector behind me. But to describe the photo, I was in my like rocking chair in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And it was a sunny day. So the sunshine was casting a reflection upon my pupil. And my mom, just like most mothers, want to take lots of pictures of their newborn baby. And my mom was just taking another picture. And this was back when the cameras had to, the film of the cameras had to go to the convenience store and you had to wait about a week to print it out. So my mom saw the white glove before she took the picture, but she didn't get to get any physical proof. So it was, hey, let me take a picture of my baby, but also, hey, let me get a picture of this white glove that I see and let me make sure that I'm not, let me go to the doctor and see what's going on. And so she took the picture to my 6 month checkup to the pediatrician, and the pediatrician brushed it off. Like, don't worry about it. There's nothing to worry about. It's just the picture. And she trusted her intuition, asked for a second opinion. And that second opinion actually had me go right back up to New York, where my mom is from. And that second opinion was at a hospital that most people may have heard of called Sloan Kettering, and that's where they confirmed that I have a rare childhood eye cancer called retinoblastoma. And this was back in the 90s. So if I did not have the surgery right away, the cancer could have spread to my brain and eventually caused me to die. But thankfully, it was 3 months later I was able to have the surgery to remove my right eye.
So you were nearly born with this. How early was that photo taken?
I was 6 months old when the photo was taken. However, as time went on, my mom did tell me that she started to see some symptoms, if you will, as soon as I was a preemie. I was born about 3 weeks early. So by the time I came out of the neonatal care unit and was coming home, my mom said she started to see some things going on with my eye as soon as I came home. So yeah.
What are those doctors? You go to the 6 month checkup, and they flash that little scope light in your eyes.
That was not
What are they
around. That's
looking
the thing.
for?
Well,
If
no,
not
that's the
a
thing. That was not
cancer.
around in the 90s. Yeah, so that's the problem. Like they didn't do that checkup because those tools were not mandated in the 90s.
It's like the Middle Ages. I grew up in the 80s and 90s. It wasn't mandated to do an eye, like take 2 seconds to look in somebody's eyes.
Exactly.
That's crazy. Anyhow, yeah, I've got my own complaints about the treatment with the bacterial meningitis that caused me to go deaf. But it's not an Aaron's bitch session. So, anyways, so you had surgery. They had to remove the eye. You had cancer treatment as an infant. Tell me what that. I mean, I know you can't remember that, but what was the process there? And what were you told about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Just like you said, I don't remember anything. Label it PTSD if you want to, but I don't remember anything. However, my mother was journaling throughout the entire time. And so as I got older and as I started to ask more questions, she told me what it was about. So she did say that I had to be awake the entire time. So emotionally, that was tough for my mom. So my dad was the one who was holding me down, if you will, while they surgically removed the eye. I don't remember the medical terminology of what they used at that time, but
Enucleation?
it wasn't enucleation, but if I were to go a little bit deeper, because now you can remove tumor without removing the eye nowadays. But back then in the
Mm,
90s, it was the full enucleation of the eye. And so I got the enucleation of the eye, and then I also had a radiation treatment to continue to keep the tumor down from the other side of the eye, since I
hmm
still, have my left eye. And but later on down the road, also because of one of the aftermaths or the symptoms of the radiation treatment, I was about 3 years old when my mom started to notice that my hearing was starting to decline.
hmm.
So I actually wear, not when I'm doing virtual conversations, but when I'm in person, I do wear hearing aids as well, and I've also been wearing those since I was 3 years old.
So it affected your hearing as well. Um,
Correct.
any other side effects? Any other effects of the cancer treatment that were maybe more permanent?
Well, it wouldn't necessarily be a part of the cancer treatment, but as more medical research was done, the older I got, I was very athletic growing up, but I was always more tired than the rest. And so, as more medical research was being done, I learned that another one of the second cancer that they call it of the main cancer is having
Hmm.
joint issues. So my body is older than I actually am. And then there's another thing where it's only affects, well, it's, how do I explain it? Because I am an African American woman, it predominantly affects African Americans more than other ethnicity. But I also have something that affects my fertilities, where I cannot, well, me specifically, I cannot keep a child. Like a child cannot get to full term without, doing IVF or something like that. So those are the other invisible things that also show up. And then I was talking to another cancer survivor that had the same type of cancer that I have, but she got her diagnosis back in California, but we're the same age and we met as adults. She also says right now she's experiencing melanoma. Which medically also is another one of the secondary cancers. So it's tough. It's like, okay, we survived. Now what?
So you lost one of your eyes very early on. Did you get a prosthetic immediately? I remember something I was watching, listening to. You asked your mom if everybody was born with a glass eye.
Right. I didn't get my prosthetic slash glass eye until I think my first one was, I think it was immediately after my surgery, because there's something where it will help your eye socket to keep the movement of the muscles if you keep, the lid open immediately. So I believe I got my first prosthetic eye when I was maybe 3 more months after that. I was about 1 year old when I got my first prosthetic eye.
Oh, they got that temporary thing called the
Yeah,
conformer.
I did have that. I had the
Yeah,
conformer first, and then I got the eye to match the color of my pupil.
I actually had conformers for a couple of years, only because my injury, the blast, uh, it actually fused my eyelid together. So I had a
Yeah.
permanent, so I had to wait to get surgery to, graft some skin and get, the eyelid. But um, those things are the worst.
Yeah.
And plus I was taping it in. So I had medical tape just holding the conformer in.
hmm
No fun. Those are awful days. But so at an early age, um, you lose your eye. You have a prosthetic eye, and do you have okay? I often would just be rubbing a little something, and it'll come right out. Um, do you have any funny stories of your own involving your fake eye?
Absolutely. My mom, and now my mom can laugh about it, but back then she was horrified. But she gave an example of one day the prosthetic eye was bothering me a lot, and she went to work and I was with the babysitter, and so she had seen me do it, when she was home with me, where I would just take the eye out, I guess rub it to the point where it comes out, or I pop it out and give it to her, and I obviously wasn't having the word to say, I don't want to wear this right now. It's uncomfortable. It's bothering me. So instead, I'm just giving it to her. Right. So she would initially be horrified as to what is happening. Why is this eye in my hand right now? And then she said, I did it when there was a babysitter around, and I just came out of nowhere and gave the babysitter the eye, and the babysitter called. My mom freaked out but couldn't speak. She just said, "Come home quickly, please come back." And that's what happened. I had just given her the prosthetic eye. Like if it bothered me, I take it out and go about my day. And even as I get older, thankfully my ocularist showed me how to properly take my eye out, from time to time in order to clean it. And if I'm under the weather or if I feel I get a headache, that's what I do. I just take my eye out and leave it alone for 24 hours.
Mm-hmm. All right. God forbid anybody ask me to keep an eye on their blank, because here you go. But that's the kind of the lighter side, the funny side. But growing up, did you experience any, I don't know, any negativity, any bullying, harassment? Kids can be cruel. What was it like growing up with one eye, and a cancer survivor? What was your childhood like?
Yeah, kids can be cruel. Fortunately and unfortunately, I've learned, I've started to volunteer with and teach kids. It's just all out of curiosity. They have no filter. We develop so many filters as we get older. They have none. But what it was is, I'm not wearing any glasses right now at the time of this, conversation. But usually when I'm out, in out and about, I do wear glasses. So the initial bullying or joke was calling me Four Eyes. Now, in lieu of, being funny about it and having a lighter sense of humor about it, if it was somebody that I felt comfortable enough talking back to, I would actually say, I actually have three eyes. I don't have four eyes. So I would tell them, that's going to be the conversational starter because they would already be freaked out. So they're no longer focused on picking on me. And then they would be like, wait, what? And then I'd let them know, guess what? I can't see you in my right eye. It's a fake eye. But initially, yeah, I would get the four eye joke, the lazy eye joke. And then also because of my, the condition that I said that affects my fertility called polycystic ovarian syndrome. Another one of those side effects is a really deep voice. And so because I've always had such a deep voice, and I was also like a tomboy, if you will. So some people, were like, are you a girl or are you a guy? So, I would deal with that a lot. So I think, I just started to have a sense of humor about it, just start to crack jokes, and not take it seriously after a while.
I use a lot of humor all the time. It's both a diffuser, to help other people say, like, not be too nervous. Also, it's a pressure release valve for me. I crack a joke, and at the same time, it allows me to always look for the silver lining in anything. If I can say at least it's it's not that bad, or it could be worse. I could be doing something else plus this, but you have a great attitude about all of this. You speak all the time. You've got a podcast, and you're teaching others. You're showing others that how to be resilient, not despite your challenges, but because of them. Where did this attitude come from? Was it developed over time? Did you have to go and seek this? And How were your parents throughout this, the family? Were they supportive, or were they kind of part of the challenge?
Yeah, and there's a phrase that says it takes a village to raise a child. And I do attribute a lot of this mentality to both my parents. Again, my dad was a Vietnam veteran, so he had already been through more resilience that I even know of, and he was even able or willing to talk about. And then there's my mom, who really was instilling that level of confidence in me from such a young age, even before I started to have those negative experiences in school. So I did get it initially from my parents, and then it does take a village. So I was very grateful to have speech therapists that, although they were the ones who helped me not only speak confidently, and at the time I was also a huge thumb sucker, so I had a huge overbite in my teeth and a big old gap in my teeth, and I couldn't say my S's and my Z's, and of course, being hard of hearing, that does affect well, at least if you lose your hearing at such a young age, it kind of affects your dialect. So they would not only teach me how to properly speak, confidently speak, but honestly, there were some days where if they knew that I was not mentally fit to have a speech therapy session, it would turn into a therapy session. So it definitely took a village to um, raise me and make sure and shape that positive, resilient mentality from such a young age.
And so your family or your parents, were they encouraging? Did they I don't know, did they help you develop this attitude? Or I know my mom is an incredible example of resilience, optimism, and I model quite a bit of my own attitude after her incredible ability to endure. So were they examples? I know having a veteran father, especially through Vietnam, it definitely challenges to face there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the examples that come to mind are, of course, the sense of humor, right? Don't take everything so seriously, because life is very short. And also, I'm thinking of, there's something about like need to know basis. I think sometimes I can be an emotional woman and I will just kind of take internally process everything. And I remember there were definitely a lot of moments where um, I would be emotional over what somebody said or didn't say or did or didn't do. And, I think he just kind of implemented a mentality of to start to dust off my shoulder, basically get up again, fall down 10, get up 11 times mentality. So, yeah.
Mhm. When did the affinity for the passion for photography start?
Well, my mom, so remember, I was born in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and then we moved to Tennessee for some time. So I did pre-K, kindergarten, first grade in Tennessee. At that time, the teachers were saying I was not speaking. I was not speaking up in class, and so they were under the impression and were about to diagnose me as mute or unable to speak. So my mom had to correct them and say, "No, she is chatty patty at home. What can we do to fix this?" And so one of the teachers suggested that I learn how to write, so I can start to journal, or show me how to use a camera. So my mom decided to show me how to use a camera. And all she did was show me the button for the shutter to take the picture and how to look. Use the eye that I can see in to look at what picture I want to take. And that took off. Like I wouldn't say I didn't need classes. Eventually I had classes, but for the first, I guess, 10 years of using cameras, that was a natural instinct for me. So not only was I literally saved by a camera also saved my life, if you will.
And how did that progress into what are you doing with the camera today?
Yeah, well, the camera is in your phone today. But basically, I did get to, when we moved back to Florida, um, Tampa, Florida first. I had the opportunity to go on my first international trip. I was blessed to go with a group of other people who were deaf, hard of hearing, or sign language enthusiasts and advocates. So I was gifted my first form of a digital camera that had video capabilities as well. So, I mean, naturally, it's like, when anyone goes on vacation, you say, take lots of pictures. And I literally did just that. To the point that by the time we moved to my second high school, well, I wanted it at the first high school that we went to, but it just, didn't work out. But my second high school, I was at a technical high school where I could have a technical program and get a entry level certificate when I graduate high school into commercial photography. So that by then I avidly learning about, how people use the cameras in the studios before podcasts were podcasts and before magazines went digital. I was learning about all of those things and even continued my education even further once I graduated high school. Um, I, I continued my travels internationally and was always taking my camera with me. But I had the opportunity to participate in a National Geographic street photography workshop in Washington, D.C. And while I was at a a photography workshop, I saw a flyer. I think I was on the subway, maybe the train for an advertisement for a photography school open house that was happening like that same day or the next day. I went to the open house and I was so fascinated and intrigued. And I said, Mama, I want to go to this certification program. So it was a 1 year photography, filmography school. It was a part of Boston University had like a Center for Digital Imaging Arts right around the Georgetown area. And
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately, it's bankrupt now, but that was an amazing opportunity to continue my education in photography. Now, unfortunately, by the time I graduated that program, everybody had an iPhone. So then I'm like, okay, I learned all this, through cameras and now everybody's their own photographer. So then I was teaching other people. This was before the world of social media marketing as well. So then I was like, okay, let me teach people how to take pictures now that I've learned all the rules. Let me also start to use my camera to, take pictures and do like behind the scenes content. So the camera is literally in my phone today. And I remember a friend made a joke because every time we go out to eat or we're going sightseeing, I will be like, hold on, I'm going to get this picture. So they're like, you're always taking pictures no matter what.
That's pretty funny. I actually both my interest in travel and photography, because I loved photography, when I could see stuff. Both, I think, for me, started on my first international trip with an organization called People to People Student
I
Ambassador
went to the
Program.
same organization. Go ahead.
Yeah, I caught that, I think, in your TED talk. And I'm like, no way. That place, that doesn't exist anymore. I took a trip to Australia, New Zealand for, I think it was 3 weeks. And for me, though, it was one of those disposable cameras, and I was actually bad at the bad camera. But at the same time, I got to see a whole new culture on the other side of the country, cultures, different countries, and the Aborigines, the Maoris in New Zealand. It was amazing. It was such a great, and I talk about it to this day, and definitely sparked my interest in seeing the world. Also, I I thought I was some kind of junior photographer, journalist. A buddy of mine and I went to Mexico, and we were in this little town. I would wanted to get those candid shots. I'm literally hiding behind a tree, jumping out and snapping a picture after having like guessed the aperture, the distance, and I would
Yeah.
snap, and then see what I got, and there's just people looking at me like I'm an idiot. And I caught that for posterity. And I thought that was pretty cool. Yeah, people to people. That was a really neat trip. So international travel, photography. Tell me about what you've got going on today, and how you are living a life of service. You're giving back with your podcast, documentary coming. Tell me what's happening today.
Absolutely. So, I think the first thing I want to talk about is my most recent travel was to Kenya. Um, and I was there for about a year from October 2024 until October 2025. And how I got there, several things happened. You'll notice as you reflect back on your life, you'll see little breadcrumbs or sparks or some people jokingly call them God winks. If you're spiritual, they call them God winks. But
Mm-hmm.
when I was in photography school, I had to do a location scouting, wedding scouting, Google research for one of the classes. And so I came across somebody's blog post about a destination wedding in Lamu, Lamu, Kenya. And I was like, ooh, that looks so beautiful. I cannot wait to go there one day. Fast forward to post pandemic, I spent some time in Dallas, Texas, and I realized there's a lot of people who are from Kenya that have relocated to Dallas, Texas. And so I was like, I've always wanted to go to Kenya. So I would tell them this and start speaking it out loud. Around that same time, I get an Instagram follower that is an orphanage in Kenya. And they sent me a message saying, we're looking for more mentors for the girls and we would love to invite you to Kenya. So I was like, absolutely. I was asking them, what they have going on. And so at that time they had a newly built vocational, not vocational rehab, vocational tech center. And, of course, naturally, excuse me, naturally most people understand how to get into the hospitality industry, the tourism industry, but they were starting like a computer lab, and I was asking them if they had a photography studio. So they didn't have the actual studio yet, but they showed me, but they showed me the room that they made that can become a photography studio. And they're like, this, it can be yours to help build out when you get here. So life happens, time flies by. I don't get there until 2024. And I spent the year literally doing that, teaching them photography, teaching them about why do I have one eye? Because again, they're kids, they're curious, right? And I was able to continue to raise awareness for my specific childhood eye cancer. But then when I get there, I realized glaucoma is very, I don't want to say popular, but very prevalent in that area. So that was a year of um, being of service and continuing to travel. And um, now, even with my podcast started in 2019. And even though I did get experience learning how to film on video before every podcast, most of every podcast was on video, I was only doing audio podcasts. So I was the one also learning, navigating the technology as the technology continued to change and producing my own podcast. So since 2019, including a few occasional hiatuses, I have over 100 episodes that people can listen to and take your pick of the topic or the person. And so now it's just kind of been like this full cycle, full evolution of I realized ever since my TEDx talk in 2024, I feel more comfortable now to not just talk about my story and empower others to confidently tell their stories, but also realize that not a lot of people are fully aware about my specific type of eye cancer. And I started to learn there's a lot more people out there that have my specific type of eye cancer, and they're doing amazing things. But how many people would actually know about that without a full series or a documentary about it? So that's also technically been in the works since the book came out. I don't think I even mentioned that. My mom and I wrote a book about all of this. So yeah, my mom and I wrote a book about this, and it's called Seeing Life Through a Different Lens, and that's available on Amazon, physical paperback, digital book, audio book. But it started, my mom's journal entries. I mentioned that when I was going through my initial diagnosis and my surgery, my mom was writing her own journals about this. So it's basically a mother-daughter book going back and forth about like journal entries of what we were thinking and feeling and dealing with at that time. So when people, bought the book, left Amazon reviews, their next question was, when's the documentary coming? So I guess, I guess I say all that to say it's coming. It's coming.
Why Kenya in the first place? Is there a familial link there, or what drew you to Kenya?
Well, I've always been fascinated with the continent of Africa. Again, being an African American woman, I was raised to understand that my history started, ancestry and genealogy related. I was raised to understand that my history started before the conception of America as a country. Um, However, due to the unfortunate history in America, we don't have that history. We don't know where we're from before that. So, I did one of those DNA tests to try to find out. And when I did that DNA test, it said there was a small percentage from the area that is now Kenya and Tanzania. And I think it's another country right near called Zambia. And so I already was like, oh, I actually have connection there. This was after I did the DNA test, way after that orphanage sent me a message on Instagram, and way after I saw that photo of the destination wedding in Kenya, way after I started to meet other Kenyans. And so I'm like, okay, there's something happening here. And even as soon as I got there, people started talking to me in their local language as soon as I get there. I'm like, no, I'm from America. I speak English. But they thought I was from there too. They're like, you look like one of us. What do you mean? So I guess subliminally there was an ancestral link, but I did not know that, really fully understand that until I got there.
I just want to tell you right off the bat, though, since you mentioned that you're African American, I just want to let you know I don't see color. Okay, bad joke. That's interesting. Did you actually find family members through the DNA search?
I did. Unfortunately, not on the African side yet. I think I have to do another DNA test that it focuses on specific African tribes in order to find that. However, I did find out that my dad actually had siblings. He grew up thinking he's the only child. Well, not the only. How do I explain it? Okay. My dad already comes from a blended family where he's the only child between his mom and his dad. And his mom went on to have kids. His dad went on to have kids. But we didn't know. I don't think my sister more of the historian than me, but I don't think we knew that the dad went on to have kids. I mean, understandably, because they separated, right? They weren't together anymore. But we didn't know that my dad had siblings from his dad's side. And so I asked my sister to do the DNA test too, because I'm not as I'm the youngest in my family. And the science of DNA is the more generation passed down, the less diluted like certain DNAs are. So my sister is my dad's firstborn. So I was like, can you do the DNA test and see what you get, what you can find? And so luckily also because she was a bit older than me, she grew up with knowing the cousins from my dad's side of the family. And so she was able to recognize some names. She was able to get a genealogy family member of hers to do some deep digging. And I got to meet. I have another uncle. I have at least four more cousins. I have another auntie. So I have more family on my dad's side when I only thought I had two uncles from my dad's mom. And my two uncles on my dad's mom's side don't have kids. So technically I was like, I don't have any first cousins on my dad's side, and now I have a bunch of them.
Yeah, you've got a great attitude, and you certainly have plenty of uh, reasons to have a negative outlook on life. Plenty of excuses you could have used. What is it? I guess. What is your perspective on purpose and passion and living a fulfilling life?
Yeah, your passion is going to be that candlelight, that fire that keeps you awake at night, but also keeps things going when it's really dark, in life. And your purpose is also the thing that you were doing when you were young. I've scientifically placed it between the ages of 7 and 16 years old. If you think about your favorite memories, if you think about your favorite places that you've been, if you think deeply as to what were you doing, why were you so happy, 9 out of 10 times that was actually your purpose. How I was mentioning that as soon as I was introduced to a camera, um, it's the thing that didn't need much introduction, right? And even though I'm not actually using a camera right now, it's telling the stories, right? I see things differently, literally and figuratively, and that's been my purpose, really ever since. And that's how I always encourage others to find their purpose. If they're like, I'm working this job, I really don't like it, I just got to pay the bills and go home and sleep. So normally it's in there somewhere, just waiting for you to dig in.
What would you tell somebody though that's having a little bit of trouble with their challenges, maybe disability, maybe something else, maybe a financial situation? I don't know, but they're having a little bit of trouble getting going. Maybe they're in a rut. How do you? What would you say to them about intentionality, and discipline, and getting going?
Yeah, I think the one thing is to remember that it's not going to last forever. Um, Sometimes the tough spot can feel like 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, and it feels like when is it going to stop? But at some point, it's not always going to be that way. All of it is basically the same way that a diamond is in a rough is being made. You are a diamond in a rough, and everybody's time is different, but it's not always going to be this way. So always continue to find those pockets of joy. For me, it's Italian food. For me, it's traveling. For me, it's having conversations like this. So always continue to find those little pockets of joy, and maybe write them down. If you feel like it was so long ago, the last time you've had a really great meal, or the last time when you remember when things were easier before maybe your disability got worse or you're newly disabled. Continue to have the pockets of joy, because the good times and the bad times are gonna come and go, and just life is short. Your time that is meant to be your time is gonna be short and surprising to most people anyway. So just focus on the joy.
I'll be heading to. Well, by the time this episode comes out, I'll have gotten back from Africa. But as I'm preparing, or when I get there, I'm heading to climb Mount Kilimanjaro. So I'll be running from Mombasa, the coastline, about 204 miles, and then climbing the mountain. Any tips for when I get to the continent?
Oh, that's amazing. So wait, let me ask you, are you gonna get any time to sightsee in between, or
So I
are
say
you
that
gonna
again.
get to travel? Do you think you'll get to like see safaris, or do you think you'll get to see the beach? I mean, not see it obviously, but like, do you get any breaks in between to just enjoy?
Well, it's not to say that the run and the climb won't be enjoyable, but
Right, right.
uh, it will take up a majority of my time.
Okay.
Uh,
Yeah. Well, then
I
definitely pace
probably won't be able
yourself.
to
Yeah,
diverge from the path. That's what I'm saying.
yeah, yeah. So, well, definitely pace yourself, and the weather is beautiful. I don't remember, you have shared with me when you're going, but I know that the weather is beautiful, so soak it up. And you know what's so interesting? I don't know. You just reminded me though. I was on a flight. There's an inter-country local airline, and the pilot will actually speak and say, uh, look out the window, or just so you know, we're about to pass the Mount Kilimanjaro, the top of Mount Kilimanjaro. So I'm so thankful that I have pictures to be able to see that. I could not do what you're about to do because I'm athletic, but not that athletic. But just soak it up because it is a bucket list item and it's going to challenge you. From what I know about people who have also done it, it's going to challenge you in beautiful ways. So um, try to stay present. Yeah.
And try to take lots of pictures, right?
That's true. You can, yes.
Well, I think it's about time to start landing this plane. Is there anything that we missed that I should have covered?
No, I think we got it. I think I have lots of places where people can continue to find me, learn more from me. I would recommend starting on Amazon or wherever you get your digital or paperback books to start with the book called Seeing Life Through a Different Lens. And if you don't want a book, it's a 3-hour audio book. Or if you did want something even shorter than that, my TEDx talk is on YouTube called Seeing Life from a Different Lens, and it's about 15 minutes. And then if you were like, well, wait, what did you say about your documentary? What's happening with that? I do have an email list that you can sign up for on my website. Of course, it'll be listed, but I'll spell it out if you feel like going there right now. It's my first name and my middle name.com, Zaakirah ZAAKIRAHNAYYAR. And I have a page on the sidebar that says documentary, and it has, the deck and a little video and a place for you to sign up to learn more when we're all done.
Awesome. We'll get that into the show notes. Now it's time to transition into the countdown to impact. This is a 3, 2, 1. 3 books, 2 quotes, and 1 person who've all made an impact in your life.
Okay, I think I'm gonna start with one first. So the one person that has impacted my life, they were, how do I explain it? She was the first cancer survivor that I bonded with. You know how when you find someone that is like you like to hold on to them very, very tight. And so we were both summer camp counselors in middle school, and she was completely blind, but she had the brightest personality. And unfortunately, she passed away we were summer camp counselors for about 2 years, 6th grade, um, 7th grade. She supposed to come back for 8th grade, and unfortunately she had passed away. I cherish those memories, remember her personality, and remember that she is part of my reason why I want to continue to advocate for my specific eye cancer. And so her name is Jackie, so she's definitely impacted me. 2 quotes. There is a quote that is in the opening of my mom and I's book. The book, again, is Seeing Life Through a Different Lens, but the quote is by Mark Twain. 2 most important days of your life are the day you were born and the day you found out why. And then I have a lyric quote, if you will. Well, no, it is a quote. There's a quote that I have in my email signatures, uh, and it's basically a Tupac, the rapper Tupac, and he was probably being interviewed. I still need to find the source. I don't remember where the source is, but I remember he said, "I'm not saying I'm going to change the world, but I guarantee you I will spark the brain that will change the world." So those are 2 of my favorite quotes.
I was a big fan in college. Brilliant artist.
Absolutely.
Actually, incredible. Prolific, too, for his young age. Anyways, sorry to interrupt.
Absolutely.
We're doing the count up to impact. We've got 1 person, 2 quotes, and we got any books for us?
Okay, so I can think of 2 off the top of my head. I'm going to think of one more, but Oh no, I have my 3 books. Okay, so because I'm also a disability advocate, there are 3 books that I recommend that you check out. So the first one is called "The Deafblind Woman Who Conquered Harvard Law," and her name is Haben, Haben, Girma, Girma, and she was the first deafblind woman to graduate from Harvard Law School. Um, and so she lost her vision due to Usher syndrome. That's another one of the eye conditions that I want people to continue to learn about. But she had an amazing memoir that also part disability advocacy. And then there's another book by Tiffany YU. It's called The Ableist Manifesto. Um, and it has a bunch of others who are disabled. It's kind of like an anthology of others who are disabled who are using their online voice to educate about disabilities and how to other people who are not disabled can continue to be better allies. And then the third book that is probably going to be out by the time this comes out is called I Identify as Blind. And it's another book similar to the book by Tiffany Yu. It's part anthology, part memoir, part disability advocacy. But Lachi, Lachi, is actually a music artist, songwriter, community builder, and she's focusing on this book to continue to uh, reframe the way that we look at, use the word disability and how innovation is playing a role.
Terrific.
And she's actually blind as well. So, yeah.
No, we'll get all those into the notes also. Well, I really appreciate your giving us your time and experience. A final question, since you've already given us your contact information, all that, which, again, in the show notes. Final question is, what is your definition of living a life of impact?
My definition of living a life of impact is making sure that you are treating others the way you want to be treated, even if it doesn't get returned. Because when you think about your legacy is what is your legacy, and your brand is what people say about you when you're gone, what people say about you when you're not in the room. And living a life of impact means that you keep that at the forefront with everything you do, the amount of integrity in everything you do.
Thank you very much. Zaakirah, this has been a terrific conversation. Thank you so much for sharing your time. I'll be keeping an eye out for that documentary.
Thank you for having me.